Okay, so we have our deltoid muscle, we have anterior, middle, and then we have the posterior head of the deltoid. Here we have the supraspinatus muscle. We have the infraspinatus muscle. You have teres minor, teres major. We have the scapular circumflex artery here passing through the triangular space. The long head of the tricep, the lateral head of the tricep, the medial head of the tricep. We then look here, we can see the axillary nerve, the posterior circumflex femoral artery. In the triangular interval, you can see the radial nerve and the profundi brachii artery. The nerve that we see here emerges here. This is the posterior brachial cutaneous. The nerve that we see here coming from the triangular interval is going to continue going all the way down. We can call this the inferior lateral brachial cutaneous, or you could call it the posterior antebrachial cutaneous, as it keeps going all the way down to here. Here we can see this little fin muscle. This is the anconeus. As we continue wrapping around, we have our brachialis muscle. We have the pectoralis major muscle. We have the biceps muscle here. We have the short head of the bicep muscle here. You have your coracobrachialis muscle here. We have the subscapularis muscle. We have the teres major muscle. We have the tendon of the latissimus dorsi. Here we can see the base of the subscapular artery, giving us the scapular circumflex artery, and deep to that would be the thoracodorsal, but it's really hard to see. Here we can see our upper subscapular nerve. Here we can see our lower subscapular nerve there. As we continue down through here, we can see this nerve. This is going to be the medial brachial cutaneous because it stops here, but it's possible it could go all the way down through the arm, and we'd call that the medial antebrachial cutaneous if it did. Here's our ulnar nerve. Here's our median nerve, traveling with our brachial artery. Going into the forearm, we can see at the medial epicondyle, we have pronator teres. We have flexor carpi radialis. We have palmaris longus. And then we're going to see flexor carpi ulnaris here. We remove the flexor group and look deep. We can see the flexor digitorum superficialis. You can see the tendon of the flexor digitorum superficialis all the way down here at the proximal interphalangeal joint. If we remove that, we're going to see several structures. We can see the muscle here. This is the flexor digitorum profundus. The muscle beside it is the flexor pollicis longus. The little nerve is going to be the anterior interosseous nerve. The little artery is the anterior interosseous artery. The big nerve is going to be the median nerve. The big nerve here underneath flexor carpi ulnaris is going to be ulnar nerve. And then we're going to have the ulnar artery. The muscle they're on top of is flexor digitorum profundus, which we can see coming all the way down to the digits or the distal tufts down here. So this is the tendon of that guy. If we continue looking here, we can see the brachial artery transitions at the cubital fossa into the radial artery. And then you can see this is the ulnar artery on the other side. As we move to the lateral epicondyle, we're going to point out underneath the bicep and the brachialis, we can see this little nerve emerge. This is the lateral antebrachial cutaneous, which is a continuation of musculocutaneous. We can see the radial nerve here, and the radial nerve is going to divide into the supinator muscle here as the deep radial nerve, and then the superficial radial nerve, which is going to emerge through the tendon of the brachioradialis and go all the way to the back of the hand. If we add these guys back on top, we see brachioradialis is the big muscle. We then see just beside it is extensor carpi radialis brevis, and then extensor carpi radialis longus is here, and then extensor carpi radialis brevis is here. If we look down here in the hand, you can see the tendons of their insertion points. This is the tendon of the extensor carpi radialis longus going into the base of the second metacarpal. This is extensor carpi radialis brevis going into the third metacarpal. If we look here, you can see the extensor digitorum muscle going to all the digits. Here we can see this one little muscle going here to just the pinky, so that's extensor digiti minimi. This muscle beside it, which is going to just the carpal bones and then stops, is the extensor carpi ulnaris. The nerve we see here is coming from the ulnar nerve, so this is going to be our dorsal ulnar cutaneous nerve going to the back of the hand. The only other muscles we see back here, this is the dorsal interosseous. There's going to be 4 of those, but we're going to focus on just this one. On the hand itself, we can see some of those tendons. So we can see our tendon here. This was the flexor pollicis longus tendon. Right beside it, as the thenar muscle group, you have the flexor pollicis brevis. You then have your abductor pollicis brevis, and then you have this muscle right here. The tendon insertion point is the abductor pollicis longus. And then we can look on the back of the hand and we have these two tendons. This is the extensor pollicis longus muscle. This is the extensor pollicis brevis muscle. And then we can see one last tendon right here. That's the extensor indicis muscle. And then that should complete us mostly through the week 3 material from this model.